Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you can attend. Come inside, come inside. Very sad, we lost 2/3 of that band this year. Great band. Anyway, hello everybody, and welcome to the city of Wuttlefish. We are hovering over the downtown right now. And before I step into this tour, I think I should address what all of you have by now realized, and that is that I indeed have a new microphone. Yeah, what do you think? It's much better, isn't it? It's a real, actual, honest-to-God microphone, not a crappy webcam mic. So, ladies and gentlemen, the days of ear rape whenever you click on a Bone Canoe video are over. So yes, I am very happy to show you this city. It is one of the, one of the top 7 cities that I have mentioned in the past, although that list has now grown, but those cities will be shown at a later time. This city is interesting because I actually started building the city and then left it and came back a few times. And the first time I didn't have any of the custom roads yet. Second and third time I did, and my building style evolved greatly during that time, so you'll have a lot of variation in how I like to plan cities, just because of, the time that passed between my different sessions working on it. So let's zoom ourselves out and take a look around. As you can see, this is a very, very large mountainous map. And there are so many different little areas here, so many different cities and towns and rural areas, forested areas, and there's a lot of tunnels, a lot of bridges, and it's quite cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a tour of the city as soon as I build a fire station, because there are too many burnt down buildings in this area. Alright, there we go. There's a little one. That's okay. So, basically, we have our main highway that goes in to the city and out again. This is the main way that people get into our city. There is one other way, which is over here, which is kind of interesting because the way in is over here, and the way out is way up here. But we're going to get into all that good stuff soon. What I intend to do is take you on a tour that pretty much goes in order of when I made things. We're going to start in the entrance area, which I decided to call Helloville, appropriately enough. This was the first area I made, and over here there's not too much to see, just regular houses and businesses lining the highway. Over here is a crazy interchange that will bring you to another part of the city we'll get to a little bit later on, but I just want to point out, building interchanges in very heavily mountainous areas is really difficult, but with enough persistence you can get the job done, and you can make things that are quite interesting and weird to look at, like this. So we go up further on, and right here is the beginning of the main highway of the city. This highway that begins here is really the spinal cord of Wuttlefish, and sort of the first session of building the city was all along this highway. So you get on the highway and you come over here to Helloville, and then you go on forward. Up here once again is an exit that will bring you to another portion of the city that we will visit later. And again, we have a crazy ramp system on a hill. Now, what this leads to down here is pretty interesting, but this is actually one of the last things I built in this city, so we're not going to come back to that for a while. Just know that before this dam was built, that's right, that dam, this whole area going all the way up to here was all water. It was a big bay, which is why this area is called Lovely Cove. It used to be a very lovely cove. It's not so lovely anymore. Well, I'm sure the town is plenty lovely, but it's not a cove. And of course I have one of these stupid things. You might remember in Optimi, I had to resort to using a traffic light on the expressway, which usually, in 95% of cases, traffic lights in City Skylines actually slows things down, not speed things up. But there are a few small locations, or a few small exceptions, one of them ironically being, high density merges. Things you would never expect to actually have traffic lights in real life are actually, it's more useful to have them here than other places, which is kind of crazy. But let's move right along. You can tell, well, at least I can tell, that this was made very early on in my City Skylines building experience, because you have things like two-way surface streets, or one-way surface streets being used for exit ramps, which is something I stopped doing pretty early on. I haven't gone back and changed everything just because, if it works, no reason to change it, and the volume's low enough here, it's okay. Man, imagine living in this house. Well, they're pretty happy. This one old person. One well-educated old person lives alone. And one well-educated old person lives here too. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, there's a lot of oh, look. This house technically has the same composition as my house. My parents and me, more or less. So, we are going to take a look over here, and you can see these regular avenues that I once used a lot, and still use a bit, but not as much. Lovely Cove, not too much to it. I know the main bus depot is over here. Yeah, we have a lot of buses in the city, as you can tell, just because even though there are plenty of train lines in the city, the terrain makes it really hard to sufficiently build up the rail infrastructure. So there's a lot more buses in this city than I usually use. But overall, this is much more of a road city than Optimi was, or even than Santa Palma was, just because of the terrain. Alright, and now, moving on, what we have here is the Valley of Industry. And I gotta say, this is one of the nicest, biggest industrial zones I've ever made. Like, this game often has a problem with industry just being easily abandoned in mass quantities, but as you can see, this area, I don't see a single abandoned building anywhere in sight. It is quite nice. Of course, there are some burned down buildings. We are just going to take care of that right now. Oh, one more. But yeah, the Valley of Industry. And you have the tale of two roads. You have the main spinal highway, and then you have a main avenue, which runs vaguely parallel to the highway and is more used by local traffic. And there's plenty of ways to get back on the highway from there. And this part of the city works pretty fine. And now you have a ridiculous ramp complex, which looks absolutely nuts. But trust me, everything on here makes sense. Everything on here goes somewhere. It's not all for decoration. In fact, none of it's for decoration. It's all functional. It just happens to look really awesome and kind of crazy. But this highway goes off to another city. Yeah, that's kind of a theme here, just like roads branching off the main area to go to other areas. And tucked away here is our main, I guess you'd call it trash compactor district. This is our main incinerator district, rather. And I tend to like to do this. I make incinerator hubs. Oftentimes I'll put them like far away, but here it kind of works where it is. And as you can see, they can get directly on this highway over here. They can come around here, get directly onto this highway either way. And they can also come back from the highways. This is definitely one of the biggest hubs I've ever made, because just look at the volume of garbage trucks that are going on here. Man, this is the busiest incinerator hub I've ever made. That is pretty nuts. But over here we have ourselves a little commercial district. It's actually fairly high density, so it's pretty nice. Here is a little bit of a suburban hub, you could say, although it's pretty urban, so I guess it's a secondary urban hub. And down here is an office hub, sort of like middle of the road kind of stuff, nothing too fancy. And if you get down here, you get nuclear power plants, which in real life should never be this close to big cities, although nuclear power is actually a lot safer than a lot of people give it credit for. However, it is still kind of weird to see it here, although, you know, if anyone is familiar with, you know, Philly, Montgomery County, 422, you pass right by the Limerick Power Station when you're going on 422 up there, right next to Pottstown. It's like 2 miles outside of the town. It's a pretty big town, and this big nuclear power plant, but it's all good. Over here you have a nice little suburban type town outside of the main city. As you can see here, we have sort of this ugly yellow bus line here. Yeah, I kind of ran out of colors here. Once again, wacky, crazy ramps that work somehow. We have a highway that goes both over and under the rail. This rail, I believe, is the main external rail. And in fact, if we go over here, we see that this is our primary cargo terminal. I didn't intend for these to build here, but I probably just zoned with a big, you know, a wide brush and just got it by accident. Let's push on. Remember I was talking about the road that comes parallel? Well, it comes over here, and we have yet another crazy intersection. Yeah, this is a bit of a theme in this city, all these wacky intersections, because a lot of the easy stuff to make doesn't work so well, and you really have to like understand how traffic in the game works, and a little bit about how traffic works in real life to really finagle with it and get it to work the way that you want. So we come through here, and we enter into this area, which is once again another suburban place. This has the name of Almost Valley because it's almost to the city. And you see we have some traffic problems here. I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually use this particular exit ramp. It's kind of funny. I guess it's not very convenient for anyone. But you see, I once had this cross the rails right here, but as you can probably tell just by looking at it, the congestion was completely intolerable. So I had to change it. And as you can see, the train lines we do have are very, very heavily used. So yeah, this goes back here. We just have some industrial zones back here, some residential, little suburb. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to take a look at the main part of the city. Okay, so as you might notice, this highway begins to split. Our road comes to the middle of the highway, and then over here they diverge completely. as it splits open. This road goes up the middle, and we enter our big city. I really like this because I saw this valley, and I'm like, this is the perfect spot for our downtown. So as you can see, I basically have two intersecting grid patterns. Well, technically three, if you include what's going on over here. But two main ones, this area and this area. And what happens is this highway actually splits, goes all the way around the city, and over here on the far side, it just crosses over, loops around, and goes back. It's actually very convenient. There are traffic problems, most notably over here. Actually, it's not so bad right now. At various points, it was actually really congested along this area, but not today. It is more congested over here, though. So let's take a look at this area. Oh man, I am really happy with it. To get a better impression, let's go full vertical. And you have the highway that comes through here, or the main avenue. And all these exits, it's really easy to make exits in this area just because there's only one direction of traffic, so it just slips on and slips off. So you have our main grid. This curves a little bit to go into this grid. And then this main boulevard just sort of twists along here, goes up as the grid continues around it. And it goes on over here, where there is this little tail end of the main part of the city. So let's look at the zones. We have our main office district over here. I think we have another one. Actually, we probably don't. There's a few scattered industrial zones mixed in, but otherwise it's a lot of residential and commercial. I like to put the commercial right along the main highway and put the residential a little bit out from it. And let's take a look at our subway lines, because as you might imagine, I like to make subway lines in the big cities. So here they are. As you can see, we're served by both rail and subway here. So, you know, I always think that giving your people the most possible options for transportation is the way to get people where they want to go the most efficiently. I mean, I think that goes without saying. But, as you can see here, subway usage actually exceeds regional rail usage, because like I said, it's very hard to make rail infrastructure in a city like this, so not as many people ride the rails as my other cities, but definitely these dense areas where you have subway stations, people are riding them. One thing I noticed when you go into underground view now, the people are actually highlighted based on which subway line they are using. It's actually extremely useful tool. But as you can see, the subway lines are a lot wackier than the what's it called? The streets are. But a lot of it's sensible. Like you have sort of a ring. I sort of have two rings going on, in fact. Sorry for these background noises. There's a chance that they might be really loud, and if they are, I apologize. Oops. Okay. Alright, now that's sorted out, we have, in fact, why not look at our subway lines on the tab here? I haven't named most of them yet. I haven't even colored most of them, because I didn't generally color metro lines back in the early days that I did this. But as you can see, they are all they're all used. They're all doing pretty well. So it all works out. Alright, so anyway, up top here, taking a look, and now we are going to sort of leave the main spine of Wuttlefish and take a look at what's going on in some other parts of the city. So, in order to do that, we are going to start here with the various towns that go up this hill. Now this rail line was actually here before my it was originally there before I started building. It was part of the regional line, but I actually cut it off from the regional line, and it's pretty much been taken over by local trains. For example, this one here is going up here. See, it's called the Mountain Climber, very appropriately. And over here is the small town of Robin Bend. You'll find this a lot in Wuttlefish, just these little towns that cling to these relatively level areas in hills. It's a nice little town, has its own station, has some traffic, but not much. In fact, since the train's here, let's watch it. Yeah, it's very quiet, so we're only going to see a few people get off and on the train here. Yeah, the trains are kind of unfair in this town because some people are well serviced by our rails, whereas others are not so much. But that just sort of comes with the territory. And I kind of like how I put it within this rail thing that goes here. And if we want to look underground, we see that there's actually a lot of stuff going on here that is just under the surface. There's for instance, this right here, this avenue actually comes up to here. So one way to get to this city, or this town, is to come up here, and then you have to make a turn here, which comes around to there. But it's not the only way. You can also